Hi guys, so this is part 2 of chapter 9, okay, homeostasis and hormonal control. So if you recall in the previous video, if you watch, okay, I split this chapter into 4 parts. For this video, I will be talking about the mammalian skin, or rather some of the more important parts in temperature regulation in a mammalian body. Okay, so let's begin. Alright, from the syllabus, okay, these are the stuff that you need to know. Okay, to describe the maintenance of a constant body temperature in humans in terms of the role of one, okay, receptors in the skin. Alright, I will elaborate more on this later. Okay, and these receptors in the skin, right, actually can detect changes in temperature. Sweating, right, is also a mechanism to maintain body temperature. On the other hand, from the other extreme, shivering is also a mechanism or body reaction, right, to maintain body temperature. Okay, the flow of blood, right, through the blood vessels near our skin, right, also helps to maintain body temperature. And finally, right, you also need to know the coordinating role of the hypothalamus. You have heard of the hypothalamus in chapter 8, okay, when we talk about ADH. But yeah, the hypothalamus also controls body temperature, okay, because it is in the brain. So this is the general diagram, right, for a section of the mammalian skin. Okay, there are quite a number of things to label, right? But just let me highlight those that are important. Okay, so number one, right, everybody should know where the hair is. Okay, so this black structure, right, this black structure that I'm highlighting over here, this is the hair. Okay, you have hair on your skin, and the hair, right, actually comes out through a segment known as the hair follicle. So do not get your hair and hair follicle mixed up, alright? The hair is the hair. The hair emerges from a small tiny little pore, right, that is known as the hair follicle. Okay? You also need to know the blood capillaries. And you can see, right, these are blood capillaries that is directly under the skin. Okay, so normally, right, I would advise you to write blood capillaries of the skin because blood capillaries are found everywhere. And with regards to this chapter on homeostasis, right, the focus is on the blood capillaries under the skin. Alright? Below the blood capillary, right, you have the arteriole, okay, which is deeper down from the skin. So the arteriole, right, is a much bigger vessel. They channel blood to the surface into blood capillaries. So you also need to know the arteriole. Okay? Let me see what else. You need to know the sweat pore. Okay, we all have sweat, and the sweat comes out through specific openings in our skin, and the sweat pore is the opening. The sweat pore is connected to the sweat gland, and the sweat gland is the one that extracts sweat from the blood. So you can see over here, right, that this sweat gland is intertwined with the blood. Okay, or rather, let me highlight in red. You can see over here that is intertwined with the blood vessel. Okay, so this is the place where they extract the sweat from the blood, and then, right, let me give, yeah, and then you can see over here, this is the sweat duct. This is where the sweat travels until the opening. Okay, and so this is known as the sweat duct. So there is a sweat pore, there is a sweat duct, and there's a sweat gland. All right. Right below our skin, right, is a layer of fats, and this is known as adipose tissue. Okay, so they most of the time the shape is like this, but it's always directly under the skin. Okay, so we have a layer of fats that is under the skin that we call them adipose tissue or subcutaneous fats, but this is good enough. Okay, now the nerve endings, right, are here. So you can see, right, over here, let me highlight in a different color. Okay, so this is a nerve ending, and the nerve ending is known as a receptor, and this receptor, right, can detect changes in temperature, and so we call them thermoreceptor. Okay, there are many types of receptors under our skin. Okay, our skin can detect changes in temperature, which we call them thermoreceptor. Our skin, right, can detect touch. Okay, if you step on a pin or when someone touches you, you can detect the touch, right? Is because of a special receptor known as a touch receptor. So receptors have many different types, and with respect to this chapter, right, most of the time it is thermoreceptor. Okay, so these two objects that you're looking at, right, are known as receptors, or what we call nerve endings. Okay. What else? Okay, I think this is the important ones. The rest are not that important, but it's good to know. But I'm not going to talk about them in this video. Okay, I just want to talk about the more important ones. So over here, right, if you refer to the previous video or if you refer to the textbook, this is the diagram that shows you negative feedback. Okay, so over here, right, this is what happens when the outside temperature, right, is higher than normal. Okay, so when you are in a warm environment, right, and you start to perspire and all, right, so this is what is happening. Okay, so normally our body is at normal, and so the hot temperature, right, the warm temperature outside is known as a stimulus. Okay, so example of a stimulus is warm weather. All right, now this warm temperature, right, will be detected by thermoreceptors under our skin. Okay, and also in the hypothalamus. When the bloods get warmer and warmer, the hypothalamus can detect the change in temperature in the blood. All right, but the first defense is the skin, because this is where the skin comes in contact with the warm air. And when the warm air diffuse into the blood and the blood temperature increases, right, the hypothalamus can also detect the change in temperature. Okay, so the control center is of course the hypothalamus in the brain, and then of course there will be a series of corrective mechanism, and this corrective mechanism, right, will bring the body temperature back to normal. Okay, so this is what this very simple diagram means. All right, so let me try to interpret them in words, right, because at the end of the day, right, bio is all about writing, correct? So let's talk about sweat glands first. Okay, now the sweat glands, right, when you are encountering a warm temperature, the sweat glands, right, will become activated. Okay, or you can use the word more active. Activated also can. And when they are activated, right, they will produce more sweat. The sweat, right, will be sent to the skin surface through the sweat duct, and finally out through the sweat pore, okay, which is the opening. So when sweat goes onto your skin surface, right, when it is in contact with the air, the water in the sweat will evaporate from the skin. Okay, this is basic evaporation. And when the water evaporates from the skin, right, latent heat, right, is lost from the body. Okay, latent heat is important. So you have to write latent heat. And this happens when you are perspiring. And when the wind blows, right, you feel cooler because the evaporation of sweat, right, actually cools your body. On the other hand, right, you realize that when you are very warm, your face will become very red, or your body will become very red, correct? Now it is because of the skin arterioles. So the second thing to write, right, is on skin arterioles. The skin arterioles, right, will what we call vasodilate. Okay, the diameter of the skin arterioles will become bigger, and because the skin arterioles expands, right, in terms of diameter, more blood, right, can be sent to the blood capillaries under the skin. Okay, so the channeling of blood, right, to directly under the skin, right, has increased, and so that's the reason why you feel flushed. Okay, because there is a lot of blood that is going close to the skin surface, and when there is a lot of blood going to the skin surface, right, because of distance, more heat can be lost by conduction, convection, and radiation. Okay, this three has to be written. All right. This is not really related to the skin, but generally, when you are feeling warmer, your metabolic rate in the body, right, will decrease, will drop. Okay, because metabolic rate refers to chemical reactions in the body, right? And chemical reactions normally release heat. So if you are already very warm, right, the chemical reactions in our body will decrease so that the heat release, right, is lesser. Okay, all these three will bring about a drop in your body temperature. So the opposite occurs, okay, when outside temperature is lower than normal. So when it is very cold outside, right, you will feel cold, right? And so this is what is happening in your body, okay? So again, a normal set point, your body is in normal, but when it becomes very cold, okay, it will cause your body to go to a series of corrective mechanism. Okay? So the thermoreceptors again will be the one that detect this change in temperature, the ones in the skin and the one is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will be the one that is at the control center. It will start to tell the body to undergo a series of corrective mechanism, and slowly, right, your body temperature will increase back to normal so that you don't feel so cold. Okay, so that your body temperature do not drop below too low. All right. So this is what it means. Now, in terms of writing, again, we talk about the sweat glands and the skin arterioles. Okay, so the sweat glands, right, because it is colder, they will be less active or they will be switched off. Okay, and because of this, they will no longer produce sweat or they will produce lesser sweat than normal. And of course, if there is lesser sweat on the skin, there will be lesser evaporation of water, and so no latent heat is lost. Okay, imagine you are very cold and you're perspiring, and then there's a wind blowing, you will feel even colder, correct? On the other hand, right, the skin arterioles, right, will go through the opposite. Okay, the opposite of vasodilation is known as vasoconstriction. It means the diameter, right, of the skin arterioles decrease, and so there is very little blood that can pass through. Okay, and it actually means, right, that there will be very little blood that will be sent to the skin capillaries, the blood capillaries under the skin. Okay, and so the person will look a little bit paler than normal because there is less blood directly under the skin. Now, because there are less blood directly under the skin, the heat loss is also lesser in terms of conduction, convection, and radiation. Okay, so actually the writing style is exactly the same. It's just the opposite. Okay, so please take note of how you write it. The metabolic rate in our body will increase. This time, they will try to increase the chemical reactions in the body so that more heat can be released, so that our body temperature do not drop too far down. Okay. Now, when outside temperature is lower than normal, right, there is also one more thing that will occur, which is shivering. Okay. Now, shivering, right, is a spasmodic contractions of skeletal muscles in the body. It means, right, that the muscles are contracting involuntary. You cannot control. It will be automatic. Okay. And this contraction of the muscles, right, in the body will, of course, increase the rate of respiration in the muscle cells because the muscles are contracting more than usual. Okay, and because of this increase in respiration, they will increase in heat. So when you shiver, right, actually it is a corrective mechanism to bring your body temperature up. All right, and of course your body temperature will go back to normal. Okay, because of this corrective mechanism known as shivering. This is how vasodilation and vasoconstriction looks like. Okay, you take a look over here, you can see the skin arterioles, right, is bigger than usual. And so this is vasodilation. And on the other hand over here, you can see that the skin arteriole is smaller than usual, which means less blood channel and less heat is lost. Okay, so when during vasodilation, more heat is carried to the skin surface and more heat will be lost. When there is vasoconstriction, less heat is carried to the skin surface and then less heat is lost. All right. So that's it. Okay, so this is the end of part 2 and this is my objective for this video. Okay, to help you in the identification of certain parts of the skin and to learn how to describe, right, what happens when the body is exposed to cold weather or cold air, and what happens when the body is exposed to warmer than usual air. Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions, please ask. And that's it. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.